Hey guys, Omni here. So last night I finally watched the Injustice animated film from Warner Brothers Animation. I actually recorded my reaction to the film. If you want to check that out over on Patreon, or if you become a member here on the channel, it gives you access to it as well if you want to see my reaction to the entire thing. And I gotta say, it was alright. It was entertaining. It wasn't great as far as an adaptation of Injustice. If you're going into this expecting an adaptation of the game, you are not going to get that. If you are going into this expecting an adaptation out of the comics, you're kind of getting that, because that's more or less what this is. If you're going in thinking of the games, there's maybe like 20% or less of this story actually is referenced in the games themselves. The rest of it is condensing 80 issues of the Injustice comics, like the lead in to the beginning of the game that they've released over the last few years, into this hour and 10 minute, like excluding the credits and all that jazz. It's like an hour, 10 minutes, hour and 15 minutes, somewhere in that range. Because like with credits, it was like an hour and 19. So like this should have been multiple parts, I think, or hell, an animated series on HBO Max. That could have been cool. Like, build this out, flesh it out. There's a lot of back and forth in here. There's a lot of things that, after kind of like doing a little bit of my own research, because honestly, like you guys know, if you're familiar with the channel or been following me for the past year or so, I only just played Injustice 1 and 2 within the past year or 2 years. Again, time is fleeting right now, and I don't know how much time has actually passed since I played that game. I could check my channel right now, but I'm in the middle of recording this. I'll do that later. So, like, it's all this material that predates the start of the game, or at least the setting of the game. Obviously, the start of the game is when the event happens, the turn happens, and then there's a time skip to where Batman and his rebellion is trying to figure out how to stop Superman's regime. And that's when you got the layover between their world, the other timeline, the main DC timeline, as they try to recruit help from the multiverse to take on Superman. That is the last 10 minutes of this film, is that. Aside from that, you get an expanded opening to the lead up, obviously the events with Metropolis, Lois, the Joker, all of that. We get an extended lead up, but the bulk of this film is the transition, the in-between times, the takeover, the rise of Superman and his regime, and how he turns, how he justifies this turn, how he is confronted with a lot of different choices throughout. And this isn't a straight adaptation of the comics, because there is a lot of characters that are involved that were not in the comics, some comic characters that were in the comics that are not in here. They definitely change up a lot of things. Some characters die way earlier than they did in the comics, and some characters just survive the whole thing. The actual conclusion of this is 100% different from even the game itself. You might notice some references to the game here and there. There's a couple of fighting moves and supers that you can recognize if you play the game quite a bit. It is its own retelling. It is its own universe. It is its own take on Injustice, with a little bit of a happier ending than the actual game itself has. It was really interesting. It didn't blow me away. I also could not get completely invested in it, because I was just like kind of dumbfounded by the breakneck speed that it was kind of going through all of these things. It like condenses a 5-year span in the comics to, like I said, just this hour. While there's a lot of fun elements in here, there's a lot of cool sections and segments and set pieces and characters that are getting involved in this. And for me, who didn't really know a lot of the background of this, it was very jarring to kind of see a lot of the things they were doing, but it was fun. I just didn't get really invested in it. Like I said, it was fun. As far as like what I was expecting, definitely didn't land that. And I feel like anybody going this expecting an adaptation of Injustice is probably not going to be all that satisfied, unless you turn your brain off and you're just here for the ride. Whatever it is, of course, you might make it through it just fine. It's definitely not one of my least favorite of the DC animated films. It is nowhere near even my top 10, I would have to say. And if I had to rate this, like, I'd probably give it like 6. Like slightly above average. It just needed to be longer. It just needed to be multiple parts, 2 parts, 3 parts, a series. Doing this storyline, condensing 80 issues and a game into an hour and 15 minutes. It just didn't work as like a film to me. And the things that they changed was just a little weird. It's definitely a turn your brain off ride, because even the characters themselves just kind of switch their brains off here and there. A lot of the character motivations, flips, and stuff like that just don't always connect, even less than they did in the Injustice series themselves. It is what it is, guys, but that's my thoughts and feelings on it. I'll tell you how it is. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, tell you I loved it when I didn't, or anything like that. So I'm just very meh on this film. So what do you guys think? Sound off the comments. Let me know your thoughts down below. We'll carry on the conversation after the video. You can also join our Discord. Links to that and all my socials are down below. Remember, you can check out the full-length, unedited reaction to this over on Patreon, or if you become a member here on the channel. And speaking of, I want to shout out our channel legends: Mandy Sherritt, Ryan Karen, Jason Coleman, Philly Vane, Yori Korskov, Margaret Grace, Peeling Zim, Mary Bradley, and Jeffrey Hale. Thank you guys so much for your support. That's been my thoughts on Injustice, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care, everybody.